Tonight on The Factor Uncensored, a father lands in trouble. Police say he left his kids to go on a job interview. Does this case highlight problems for other parents in similar situations?
If ICE agents are trying to take you or a loved one, shoot them on sight.
Wow, plus a call for violence against ICE agents online, taking fears on deportation to another level. That's coming your way tonight.
The Isaiah Factor Uncensored starts right now.
And welcome to The Factor Uncensored, and thanks for joining us tonight. First up, a job interview ends badly for a man in Georgia. Chris Lewis was arrested March 22nd. Police say he left his kids in a McDonald's by themselves while he went to an interview for a job. He reportedly told police he did not have a car and lived nearby. Lewis said instead of making his three kids, who are 1, 6, and 10 years old, walk home alone, he decided to make them stay in the restaurant. There's been a lot and ongoing debate about this. If we can hold that, Sonora, grab that for me. A lot of debate about this on the Isaiah Factor Instagram page. We asked, what was the appropriate age for kids to be left unattended? 41% say 10 to 12. 39% say 13 to 15, and 20% say 16 years and up. Our guests are here on The Factor Uncensored to talk about this. We have with us Davenport case manager Jay Bailey, therapist Dr. Bernadette Smith, and parent Matilda Saragosa. Glad to have you all on The Factor Uncensored. So, Matilda, let's begin with you as a parent. Your thoughts about this situation.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I feel there's still a lot of missing information for me to make that full assessment. Like, what was the length of time they were left alone? Were they inside of the McDonald's? Were they in the car? Can you clarify that for me really quick?
What we know is he was there from the kids were there from 4:30. He returned at 6:18. Okay. And then the mother was on the way as well, but we don't know if she was called by police or him after the fact, or if she was on the way anyway. So there, like you said, there are still a lot of unanswered questions.
Correct. I feel like at some point we encourage the community to stay vigilant and report these incidents, and I feel like that's what they did. But at the end of it all, like, what was the backstory to it? Did he intentionally just go in there to leave an application and they asked him to stay for an interview and it prolonged the waiting period for the children? You know, were they inside or outside? Temperatures? Like, what was the damaging? If they were inside of the public setting, was it a safe setting? Mm-hmm. You know, there were so many things that we could still try to figure out in order to rectify or remedy this situation.
And Dr. Smith, a lot of people are cautious on how they approach this report, because a lot of parents can see themselves in a situation where you don't have someone to provide for your children, or you can't afford a babysitter, and you have to provide for them, and you're caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yep. No, it's very tough, and I think that what this story is showing is when you do not have a village and when you do not have means and resources to provide for that care, what then are you doing? And so to your question, one of the things that I heard was that he left the kids in the play place. So they were playing at the McDonald's playground area. Again, was that maybe best judgment? Who knows? But what we also know, I feel it comes from a space of desperation. And so when you don't have the resources, when you don't have access to a village, and you're trying to further your family by getting a job and doing the things in which we're told to do in society, and then he's penalized, again, being able to look at what resources can we then provide. Like, for example, in Houston, there's the House of Tiny Treasures that provides childcare for people who are unhoused and kind of in that space.
All right, Jay, let's bring you in. Your thoughts on this as an expert looking from the outside, and your thoughts about parents who may be put in a position like this or put themselves in a position like this, depending on which way you're looking at it.
In this situation, I do think that we do need more information to properly assess his opportunities and his resources. But I do think that it takes a village, and so we need to call on our village when we do need help. And you can always contact, foster care agencies or just any social service setting that could help you in situations like that.
And of course, Matilda, you're a parent, you know sometimes that help is not out there.
No.
And not readily available. If you have, finally, you get that call. Yeah. We want to talk to you today about this job. And sometimes the village is busy.
And being in Houston, you know, coming from Houston, we are limited with our resources, and it's a tough situation, just like we all spoke on. He was in between a rock and a hard place, like, do I do this for my family? Do I run the risk of running into CPS? Am I going to get railroaded? And it could be a whole bunch of all of that at the same time happening. And it's just unfortunate he wasn't in the club slapping booty. He was trying to get a job, you know, so he was doing what he thought was best for his family. And I hope that there's a great outcome for him. I hope it doesn't stick and that his children are safe and placed back with him.
Yeah.
And Dr. Smith, let's talk to you again. What should you do if you're caught in a situation like this? Let's look at it face value, what we have here. Walk them with you, take them with you,
and again, like, who knows? Because I'm looking at the time frame. That's 3 hours. So maybe it was 30, 45 minutes to walk. And I'm sorry,
it was 4:30 to 6:18, 2 hours.
Okay, 2 hours. Yeah. Okay, so that I have a 5-year-old, and sometimes walking to the mailbox is tough, right? And so I think that part of it then becomes, when you have children or when you are preparing for children, to start to identify who then are your support systems and what does that look like. I think in this particular case, clearly he did not have that support system, because I know even sometimes when I'm trying to come here, I'm like, okay, let me find out who's going to watch my kids. And sometimes it doesn't always come together, because as Matilda was saying, it's not easy to bring your village in when you have children sometimes. But sometimes it then becomes, how can you be proactive in having that foresight? Who is your village? How can y'all barter systems, etc.?
All right.
Make friends with your neighbors.
Absolutely. And we're not done with you guys. You can continue to talk in a second. Don't go anywhere. We'll continue this conversation after the break, and later at 11, a federal judge. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. We continue our discussion on parental supervision after a father made the choice to leave his children at a McDonald's during a job interview, leading to his arrest. Our guests are back to talk about this. Now, we had a poll at the beginning of the program talking about the suggested age that people feel comfortable with leaving their children at home. Dr. Smith, let's begin with you. We were anywhere from 10 to 12 to 13 years old. In this particular case, it was a 10-year-old with the youngest being 1. So your thoughts on when we are parents out there, what suggested age would you say is old enough to leave your children behind?
So there's no cut and dry answer. It depends. Everything is going to be subjective. So in my opinion, I feel that it is unfair for a 10-year-old to have responsibility for a 1-year-old and a 6-year-old at that point, right? My oldest is about to be 10 and my youngest is 5, and the way they go at it, there's no way in the world I would come home to chaos. It would be horrible. There's going to be a broken limb or something. And so I feel that's a lot of responsibility. But what we have to recognize in Texas, there's no age limit. And so everything then becomes subjective. And then what we also have to recognize, especially in marginalized communities, do we want courts, CPS to then be the subjective voice in terms of, oh, your child was old enough or not? So to answer it a little more clearly, you have to be able to look at how responsible is your child? Does your child know your phone number? Does your child know your address? Does your child know what to do if somebody knocks on the door? Does your child know what to do in case of emergency, fire, sickness, etc.? Because then again, you are not only making sure your child is safe, but if somebody is called, then it is supporting the case in terms of the subjective nature behind leaving your child.
That's an important point you make, because I was reading one of the polls and it indicated some children are very mature. You know, you'll have a 10-year-old who behaves like an 18-year-old and can run everything, but then there are 10-year-olds who are 10-year-olds.
That part. Correct. Well, that, and I love my baby boy, but I don't think that he's going to be as mature as my daughter to leave him, you know, at home, because again, the critical thinking, of course, is still being formed in children, but just the ability to know what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. Because even sometimes when I'm working from home and they're there, there's a lot going on, and I'm there.
And so if you could put a number on a kid that you would feel comfortable.
But again, Isaiah, it then becomes, what then does leaving them home mean? Does that mean I'm leaving my 9-year-old at home to go to Eckerd's, or not Eckerd, oh Lord, I done told my age. I told my age.
And I was fine with it. I'm like, yeah,
Eckerd. But like to go to Walgreens, versus leaving your 8-year-old to, I don't know, do a 2-hour turnaround trip, right? Like,
Right.
and so again, I think it becomes how long are they going to be gone for?
All right.
Or how long is the parent going to be gone for?
Jade, your suggestion for parents out there, what do you think is a good age bracket, or do you see it as subjective as well and the parent's perspective?
I do see it as subjective and up to the parent's discretion, because we have to look at the maturity level of the child. Are they able to, handle themselves in an emergency? Are they socially aware? Are they spatially aware? So when you factor all three of those things in and you look at your child, a parent knows their child best. I might not know their child. So when you look at their child, when they look at their child and they see all those factors and they apply them to them, and that's up to them. I feel like placing a number is kind of putting them in a box, and is letting them know, okay, I can start at this age, but your 12-year-old may not be this 12-year-old. You have a 16-year-old that may function like a 12-year-old. Are we going to leave a 16-year-old at home by themselves?
Correct.
We may not. So it's kind of just subjective on what your child is, what you know about your child.
And helping them to develop those skills, because then that's one of the things that you can do as a parent. So it's not just, okay, now's the day I'm going to leave you at home, but to slowly start to develop those skills and test and see what they do and don't do.
Teaching them how to problem solve. And able to monitor them maybe with cameras. I think that would be helpful in a situation
Are they
like that.
self-sufficient?
Should you decide to leave your child at home?
And are we looking at a generational difference? Remember all the latchkey kids?
Well, I think so, because me being honest with you, like even I have grandchildren and they are able to stay at home, but we still have cameras. We can watch the home, because are they willing and able to really pay attention to what's going on? Because nowadays they're so into their cell phones that the house could be burning down, and so long as it's not on TikTok yet, you know what I'm saying? So it can vary. I believe the latchkey kids, they were more focused. They were in their surroundings, and now these kids are like out of space in the home.
We were street kids, as Lexi.
Yeah.
And you have to recognize too that it's not just generational, but it's also cultural and specific to American culture as well, because there are other societies where they letting their little toddlers go to the grocery store with money on their own. So, but again, it's skill development and being able to identify where your child is.
All right. We want to thank you all for joining us tonight with your advice and expertise.